why do the gays for Gaza are still being called gays for Gaza? I think this is like the major thing that I want to talk about. I'm thinking to myself, it's kind of funny when you think about it. After 9/11, you would think, people would be more aggressively anti-Muslim, and they were in the beginning. But then something shifted, and then it wasn't about the facts anymore. It's about the narrative, right? And then you're selling a narrative. You're not selling the facts. So the stats can tell you one thing, but as long as you believe a story is more powerful. And that's the problem we have. And I think yesterday, after everybody went offline, we were talking about what can we do about fighting against the narrative. And I said that what we need to do is tell our own stories, make our own movies, not just rely on Hollywood, not just rely. And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying the narrative needs to shift. The way we need to shift it is by telling the stories that we need to put it out there, because we as humans rely more emotionally on characters that we see online or on the television than people that we see sometimes, day to day. You can feel the emotions when you watch a Pixar movie, but the guy next to you on the bus, you don't care, not that much. So when we have I don't know if I'm going on a tirade. I'm just pissed off, guys. That's what I'm really pissed off. Seeing what's going on with, the moment I saw that lady saying, I really hoped the attacker was Christian white nationalist, and she discovered that it wasn't. The car ramming in Berlin. That is just a point where we are, where there's no turning back. You know that society is fucked when somebody is saying, "Oh my gosh, I really wished it was the other bad guys and not this bad guy." And this is like, um, this is just crazy. I mean, this is a social pandemic that we have, and this is why I say that as long as we still run over all this narrative of kumbaya shit, we need to go back to the 90s, like movies 90s, like Armageddon, guys. We need to make some new Armageddon stuff, some freaking, I wanted to say Jurassic Park, but we have a lot of those, so maybe not Jurassic Park, but more just like go on and chase those mother effers, terrorists, and be like, yeah, America, yeah. We need some more of that. I'm sorry. Love you guys.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to twos. So first, Monkey.
There's two factors here. A lot of this is outside funding. When you see those people chanting, they have organizers. The guy with the bullhorn, he's getting paid, and a few of them are getting paid. Not all of them, but like a good number of them get paid enough so that they go to every single rally because they're getting paid. Like this is their way of life. This is like there's many videos that show it and prove it, show the names, show the some of the funding and all this stuff. So you have to understand this is not organic a feeling, right? This is something an organizer would pay, would do. The other thing is you have to remember. I don't know if you read it. There's a novel by a dude named George Orwell called 1984. Part of making sure that you were a member of the cult of the party was making you repeat things that don't make sense as if they make sense. 2 plus 2 is 5. We know 2 plus 2 is 4, but if you say 2 plus 2 is 4, then you are adhering to logic. And logic is not obedience. Obedience doesn't care about logic, it cares about obedience. So you have to say gays for Gaza. And if you don't, you're not one of the club. Because if you were in the club, you would know that this is the password, right? If you don't say this, you're not in the club. If you don't agree to these sets of passwords, you're not in. You're just simply not in. They don't care if it makes logical sense or not. They care about obedience. That's why it doesn't make sense, because it's not about making sense. It never was.
Okay, thank you. Armin?
Yeah, so Roy, I think we're winning this. It just looks, it only looks like we're losing when you zoom in and things that are crazy get highlighted a lot more. But you need to zoom out and look at where we are right now and where we were before. The West is winning this. The Enlightenment values are winning this. Capitalism is winning. The enemies of the West are losing. Just zoom out a little bit. If you zoom out, you see that everything is getting better. You know, prosperity, economic growth, trade, technology, uh, life expectancy, standard of living, affordability, globally, poverty dropping to historical lows, child mortality dropping, access to clean water increasing, you know, starvation being reduced. Like the world is getting so much better very fast. The only issue is that we have so much access to bad news. We have more access to bad news and bad takes, and they're just more interesting, right? Like if I like, you know, nobody would be like, not that many people are interested in like, oh my god, look at this. Vietnam just had another great exponential economic growth rate because of liberating their economy. Like who would want to see that? Like war is just more interesting. Bad takes, crazy insane people are just more interesting, right? So you see more of that, but things are getting so much better so rapidly. Like we're living at the best of times. In fact, most people, Roy, here's an interesting thing. Most people in history were living at the best of times and they were convinced that they're living at the worst of times. This is the two true things. Most people in history were living at the best of times and they were convinced that this is the worst of times. And this is the same. We're the same right now. And so I'm very optimistic. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't be fighting, because just because things are getting better, that doesn't mean things are good. There are still people suffering. There are people starving. There's still poverty. Things are improving rapidly, but it could be even more rapidly. So I'm not saying this to just for us to sit back and do nothing. And there's still a lot of crazy. There's a lot of war out there, but there's less war than before. There's the chances of people dying from violence is less than it has ever been in the past 12,000 years of the history of civilization, right? So if you want to be um if you're feeling bad, maybe there's a book by uh Steven Pinker. Is it Steven Pinker? Yeah, I interviewed him actually. Called Enlightenment Now. Is that his first name? Where's the book? I can't find it. Yes, just read that book or The Better Angels of Our Nature. Those books are really good to make you feel a lot more optimistic about where we are. And it's not like it's empirical. It's not based on just rationalism. It's empiricism. It gives you a lot of data. The book is filled with a lot of data that you could double check. Also, by the way, Roy, when you get to your turn, can you explain to me, like you mentioned last time that Armin is anti-Kurdish, and you disagree with me on that. Can you let me know why you think I'm anti-Kurdish? I would like to know why you think that. But yeah, so that's me.
Okay, Siddhartha?
I'm here. I just wanted to read this one paragraph from Michel Foucault's 1978, October 1978 essay, which is called "What Are the Iranians Dreaming About?" He says, "A religious authority explained to me that it would require long work by civil and religious experts, scholars, and believers in order to shed light on all the problems to which the Quran never claimed to give a precise response. But one can find some general directions here. Islam values work. No one can be deprived of the fruits of his labor. What must belong to all, water, the subsoil, shall not be appropriated by anyone. With respect to liberties, they will be respected to the extent that their exercise will not harm others. Minorities will be protected and free to live as they please, on the condition that they do not injure the majority. Between men and women, there will not be inequality with respect to rights, but differences, since there is a natural difference. With respect to politics, decisions should be made by the majority, the leaders should be responsible to the people, and each person, as is laid out in the Quran, should be able to stand up and hold accountable he who governs." Okay, so the reason why I'm reading this is because actually this Gays for Gaza or Queers for Palestine is actually like is a long-standing sort of anti-Western alliance. So it didn't just pop out of nowhere. It seems crazy to us, but actually, like there's a very deep intellectual tradition here. So if you look at Foucault's own personal behavior, you would see that, like, okay, he doesn't meet the standard of a pious Muslim. Maybe he meets the standard of somebody who would be hung by a crane, by a pious Muslim. But nonetheless, like, he saw in Khomeini and in the revolution a force against the West, and that appeals to a lot of leftists. And that's why they're so dangerous, because they feel no obligation to any sort of coherence. And this is kind of their superpower.
All right. So I guess Roy is next.
Short-term superpower, long-term, it's their greatest weakness, which will eventually make them. When you're not grounded in reality, you're not going to survive. Roy.
All right. I think I mumbled a little bit. Sometimes it happens, ADHD and kind of stuff like that. But you did get like my general point. So kudos for you for understanding what my shitty brain is trying to move into my shitty mouth and spew something. So kudos for all of you. First of all, Armin, yeah, I know you're not anti-Kurdish. You just, your position is about the part of Iran that you don't want, you want it to be part of Iran and not be given to the Kurdish separatists, right? This is what I know from your position.
This is not my position. This is the Iranian Kurdish position as well. I'm pro-Kurdish people. Kurdish separatists are not the Kurdish people. They do not represent the Kurdish people. The Iranian Kurds hate the idea that some people think the Kurdish separatists represent them. The Kurdish separatists have killed more Kurds than any other group of people. I am pro-Kurdish people. That's partly why I am against the separatist groups. This is not just my opinion. This is the opinions of Iranian Kurds.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Listen, there are so many subjects that I'm still learning about, and it takes time for. I'm sure I'm not the only one that we're learning about, and we are establishing our facts and our ideas and how we manage and everything, and that's fine. And I think to get to our point, this is exactly what Michel Foucault, fucking Foucault, did not do, and other pieces of garbage in history. I think Michel Foucault was also the same guy who praised the USSR and saying that their system was so much better and so sophisticated, much more than the average European middle class, system. So yeah, this is when we say that smart people can have also stupid ideas. I'm not saying he is smart, but he was regarded as such. My problem is putting your optimistic aside, Armin. I love your optimism. This is why I come back here all the time. It's not just your charm and your lovely jawline. It's also your optimism. uh, but and there's a big ass but here. And the problem is with everything that we say about statistics and polls and everything, sometimes history doesn't work like this. Sometimes history is psychological more than, a trajectory that we see. Because if you would think in the 70s, when you saw what happens in Iran, how it looks, how beautiful it was, what a trajectory of prosperous ideology comes here, you would never in a million years think that that a revolution will come and destroy what happened to Iran. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm saying from my perspective, it was, you would think that they would crush that revolution. You would think that the Americans, that the French would not turn their back. They would not help the mullahs. But it didn't happen because there were a lot of factors inside. And sometimes you would think that the DSA and the anti-Western alliance in America would not be so strong, but they are growing. They are growing, and this is a problem. I don't want to say that we're deluding ourselves, but we are sometimes holding on to stats and saying the facts are life is good. I am totally agreeing with you. The problem is that sometimes maybe it's the Jew in me that is kind of like, guys, I know the earth isn't shaking, but it's gonna shake. I can promise you, something is gonna happen. And that's just me, that's just my Jewishness coming out, saying we need to be always with the finger on the pulse. It's never enough. We can never really understand how much they're planning. Sometimes we don't even know what they're doing behind closed doors. We usually don't know. And that's it. I'm just trying to I don't know, be the anti-optimism here.
Pessimist is the word you're looking for. Okay, Aaron, back to you.
No, it's okay. I'll let other people speak. Thank you, Roy. I appreciate your openness. And I'm so happy that you're here. You have an interesting perspective, and don't worry about being pessimistic. That is good that you express them, because then that gives us an opportunity to express our optimism, and that will create a good balance. And thank you.
Okay, then Siddhartha.
So two things. So one is on the just an anecdotal data point on Iranian Kurds. I had some engagement with some Iranian Kurds, and what they told me, again, this is very anecdotal, but what they told me is that the two things. Like, one is they believe that Kurdistan as a sort of as a state is a fantasy because it would be completely landlocked. First of all, so it's just like they didn't regard it as a good idea. I mean, this was only one reason of many, but there was one thing that they were saying is like the people who talk about Kurdistan as a sort of as a political entity really haven't thought it through. And the second thing is that they said that Kurds are Iranians, like not just the Kurds in Iran, but all Kurds. If we talk about like ethnically Iran, right, like Indo-Iranic people, Kurds are Indo-Iranic people, as are Baloch, as are Persians, right? So this is kind of like that was their view on how they relate to the Iranian national project. with regards to the left and the narratives versus reality, I would just say that Roy, I agree with you that these people are extremely dangerous, and we have to be vigilant. So it's not good enough that they're wrong, because them being wrong doesn't change, it doesn't undermine their ability to shape narratives and to build movements. So vigilance is absolutely necessary. These people are extremely dangerous, and we're seeing it play out right now how dangerous they are. So we must stay on top of them. And you're right to constantly remind us that.
Right. And then one more response from Jeffrey, and then we move on. Why does Jeffrey look this surprised? You put a 2. You for sure put a 2. You can't be this surprised.
Oh, I was just going to say, in regards to what we don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. I mean, unless they're on OnlyFans, in which case, then we know.
Okay.
My name is Armin Navabi. I'm an Iranian political analyst with decades of experience fighting the Islamic regime inside and outside of Iran. Make sure you follow me for more, and also make sure you join our discussion group. I'm there almost every single day. Come talk to me there and the rest of the people there in our group calls. It's a great place to meet and talk to people who like talking about politics. The link is in the description and or in the bio. You could also get there by scanning the QR code on the screen. See you there.